I've been at the Trust for Public Land for about 4 years. I reside in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where our research and innovation team is headquartered. My background is in geospatial analytics and statistics, and I actually got my start about 45 minutes here, small liberal arts school called Colgate University. I'm sure the audience is full of raging Colgate softball fans, but I did just want to brag a little bit. We beat Syracuse 2 weeks ago. Not that I'm on the team anymore, but it was pretty exciting. So if there's any SU grads, sorry about that. So today, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how the Trust for Public Land is using spatial data analytics to, to ensure equitable and equal park access for everyone across the nation. So a little bit about the Trust for Public Land. So land for people, you're going to see this scattered throughout my presentation here. And our mission, is we create parks, we protect land for people specifically, ensuring healthy, livable communities for generations to come. And really all the work that we do falls within our organizational beliefs. And so we believe people they deserve access to nature. So we ensure that we're working where need is the greatest and where we can make the biggest impact on lessening the gap of that need. We have 4 strategic initiatives: climate, community, equity, and health. And we make sure that all the work that we're doing is really falling within those lenses so we can tackle those initiatives. I'm almost done with the TPL spiel, I promise, then we'll get to the cool stuff. Not that this isn't cool. But the TPL was founded in 1972, and we operate in more than 30 offices across the nation. We've helped protect over 5,000 special places, over 3 million acres. So at some point in time, you've probably recreated on a piece of property that the Trust for Public Land has helped protect. And one deeper dive into those numbers there. So we've also, in 1996, our Conservation Finance Program was founded. And we have helped guide bipartisan legislation on 500 ballot measures, which has generated over $70 billion in public funding surrounding healthy land and water. And 8 million people now live within a 10-minute walk of a park, park, green space, or public land that the Trust for Public Land has either created or helped protect. And so now that idea as the 10-minute walk is something I'm going to stick on for a bit. It's a huge component of our work, and specifically my work at the Trust for Public Land. So we focus and we believe that everyone deserves access to a park, green space, public land within a 10-minute walk. This allows us to focus on small towns, big cities, large nature preserves on the outskirts of metro areas, but also small pocket parks in the center of town, or maybe one park that really is going to change the entire experience for every resident in that community. And right now, we know that 1 in 3 people in the United States does not live or lives outside of a 10-minute walk of a park. That's 100 million people live outside of a 10-minute walk of a park and do not have reasonable park access. And so ParkServe, this is my baby. It's been about 4 years that I've been working on this. But ParkServe is the first of its kind national authoritative local park spatial database that measures where parks are, but who can access them. We cover 14,000 cities and towns. It's around 85% of the population, and nearly 130,000 parks are included in this database. And so let me show you what I mean. This is Syracuse, New York. These are one of the communities included in the public data platform. So this is public. You can go, you can check it out, and your town is probably included. But I'll just walk through kind of what you're looking at here. So the light green are the park locations. This grayish green are the 10-minute walk service areas. The red and orange areas are the levels of park need. And so how we define those levels of park need are based on a few different demographics. So we look at population density, we look at the density of the population 19 or younger, and then we look at low-income household density. So those areas in red are really where all three of those factors score highly, where we believe that park need is highest relative to the rest of the city. Then we also have the blue points, and those are really locations where you can make the biggest impact on your 10-minute walk. That's where your population density is the highest, so let's build a park there and make the biggest impact on our community. Syracuse right now is at 76%, so 76% of Syracuse residents can walk out of their house and access a park. We also break down that 76% a little bit deeper and look at specific demographic breakdowns of who's really being served the best. So we really approach with that equitable lens. And so we have age breakdowns, race and ethnicity breakdowns, and household income breakdowns. The age, if you look specifically, I know you guys can't see that very well, but on the age chart here, so children and adults, or 19 or younger, that's a rough definition of children, I will say, 77% of children and adults live within a 10-minute walk of a park, yet 69% of seniors in the city of Syracuse are within a 10-minute walk. So that shows that in order to make this equitable park access across the city, we should target the senior population. And so we have similar breakdowns there again for race and ethnicity and income. And so how can ParkServe help planning? You know, most simply, you can visualize where your parks are, who lives outside of those parks. If you're going to build a news park, if you're considering a prospective park location, is it in an area of park need? Does it make sense to strategically choose this location to improve park access in your community? But say you have two park locations and you're deciding which one makes the most sense, which one's going to make the biggest impact. And so we've built a tool into the ParkServe data platform called the Park Evaluator, where you can sketch a park location, see the on-the-fly 10-minute walk impact, and assess which one is going to make the biggest impact on my community, depending on what population you're looking to target. So I drew a park near some of the optimal point locations, the blue points that I had talked about, and this park alone would increase access for 3,200 Syracuse residents, and it would up the percentage of park access, or percentage of residents within a 10-minute walk, from 76% to 78% with one property. And now ParkServe is also helping drive our national strategies. And so this map here, using the ParkServe database, we're able to identify which urban areas or metro areas across the United States have at least 50,000 people outside of a 10-minute walk. You can see that there's a lot of work to do. There's no patterns. There's park need everywhere. So we just know we need to be everywhere. So great. That's a good information. But let's dive a little bit deeper to see if there's specific populations that we would like to target. Where should we work? So this map assesses two different variables. We first look at where is the density of low-income households the highest that are outside of a 10-minute walk. So which urban areas have the most low-income households that have poor park access? And then the other variable, so a little background on that, we have found that the quickest way to change or improve your park access is to enter into a joint use agreement between school districts and park departments. And so that will open these schools outside of school hours to the public. They can walk on. It's already developed. There's no acquisition. Maybe there's a change in management, which can be a headache sometimes, but it is definitely the quickest way to make it happen. So what this map is showing, it's taking those low-income households, cross-referencing it with areas that also have a large number of public schools in these areas of park need. And so we can clearly see that Detroit and LA are two metro areas where we can make a very quick impact on low-income households and increasing park access. And then lastly, from a national standpoint with ParkServe data, we've just recently created an urban hotspot layer across the nation. And this really looks at areas, this is looking at Omaha, Nebraska, and this is looking at areas within a city that their surface temperature is abnormally high compared to the rest of the city. We've cross-referenced this data set with our park need data to show where can we build a park that we can increase park access, but we can also mitigate urban heat island effect throughout this city. And so this is kind of getting at really that multiple benefit, the multiple benefits that park can bring to communities. All right, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to take it outside of the city. And so, we don't just focus on urban spaces. We believe that people deserve and need access to great outdoor experiences as well, whether that's outside of their door or within a drive. And so that brings me to a project called Access Impact Methodology, and this is a pretty new project for us, but I'm excited to share it with you guys. I'm going to refer to it as AIM from here on out. And so what AIM is a data-driven approach to inform decision makers on really what's the balance of supply and demand within their community for outdoor recreation opportunities. So let's just say that within, I'll get into this in a little bit, but within a 2-hour drive, there are X number of acres that my residents can access within that amount of time, but there's no access to waterways, and my city residents are spending the most money on fishing equipment in the outdoor recreation expenditures for my city. So this will look at, is that balanced, and where do we need to kind of fill that gap to make sure it is balanced? Just a quick look into the supply side. So this is a Recreation Opportunity Spectrum Analysis, a ROS analysis. This was founded by the Forest Service in the 80s. And what this looks at, it really classifies public land based on the level of remoteness, so distance from roads and distance from other human disturbances. So we look at Colorado here. In Denver, obviously the public land there is very urban. There's a lot of human disturbance. There's a lot of roads. And as you get into the Rockies, specifically along the peaks, that's where the backcountry is. That's where you're going to have the most remote lands as compared to the rest of the state. So this helps get a glimpse at, what's available, what's the supply of outdoor recreation opportunities in the state. This is a more localized look at that. So this is in Salem, Oregon. That dark polygon around the city is representative of a 2-hour drive time. So that's the area where Salem residents can get within 2 hours. And this pie chart here shows a breakdown of what is the supply of public lands within that 2-hour drive time. And so Salem residents within 2 hours can get to front country, they can get to rural, but they don't really have much mid-country or back country available. So there's certain recreation opportunities that they cannot access within those 2 hours. Again, looking at the drive time. So we also do this analysis at 30, 60, 90, and 120-minute drive time. So that's what those different colors are. But most importantly, I think I want to talk about how we also break down the different management within that 2-hour drive time. So in Salem, there's 60% of the land is federally owned, but then within that federally owned land, it's mostly national forest, it's mostly BLM land. So again, a deep dive into the supply. Now the bottom piece, this is the demand piece, and this is a really, really interesting data set. So what these numbers represent on the bottom, 100 is representative of the national average. So anything above 100 is better than the national average, or higher than the national average, not necessarily better. Lower, or under 100 is lower than the national average. So I know you can't read this, but the two left, where it's 105 and 113, that's an index representing the participation in hiking by Salem residents. The next is the participation in backpacking in the last year by Salem residents. And so those are above the national average. There's a lot of participation by Salem residents in those two activities. Our 93 here, which is 4 in from the left, that's a participation in hunting, so that's under the national average. So Salem residents are much less likely to participate in hunting as compared to hiking and backpacking. All the way on the right, we look at the expenditure, the average amount spent on camping equipment for the second one, and then the last one is average amount spent on hunting and fishing equipment. So we can see here that Salem residents don't purchase new things because they're probably doing this all the time, but they're very active in backpacking and hiking, and they're really not interested in hunting and fishing. I think that's kind of, as compared to the national average, I should say. There's probably many people, if anyone's from Salem and you're into hunting and fishing, that was a false statement, so I apologize. You might love it. But this just kind of gives you a look into the demand of what do Salem residents want, what are they desiring. We can cross-reference that with the supply of the public lands that are out there and really assess that balance. We also look at several factors of social vulnerability. So we want to make sure that what's accessible within that 2-hour drive time is equitable. We want to make sure it's equitable. There's some people that might not be able to drive 2 hours. So we want to see also what's available in 30 minutes. We're looking to investigate what public transportation opportunities there are to get out to these public lands. And that's really for the next phase of AIM. But we do consider social vulnerabilities to make sure that we're looking at equitable supply and demand. And then this one's a fun one that we don't do for everything, but this is a way where, this is a map showing the density or the total number of Flickr photos taken in certain locations. So they're geolocated Flickr photos. And this really gives us a glimpse of, sure, you know, we think that national forests are the most used public lands within the 2-hour drive time. This is outside of the 2-hour drive time, but we're seeing here that people are going to the Columbia River Gorge and people are going to the peak of Mount Hood. Of course, that's where everyone takes pictures because you're proud of yourself for getting there and it's beautiful and all that stuff. But this can kind of give us a glimpse into where people are actually traveling and show us kind of where what opportunities are really bringing people to these special places. So another look again into the demand. And then just bringing that back out nationally, we're also able to look at the supply and demand by county across the US. So in the Midwest, this red is representative of very high demand but very low supply. And then in the West and the Northeast, you can see that they're saturated with both demand and supply. And so this just gives us a glimpse at what areas are balanced in terms of who wants to do what and what's available. And so with that, just to close, you know, these are tools that, first of all, are fully public. These are helping drive our local strategies, our national strategies. But really the goal of this is to empower everyone else to jump on the train with us and help ensure equitable and equal park, public land, and green space access and trail access across the country. So thank you very much.